Tuesday, January 13th, 2026 here in Chemtrail Hill. Wow. It's like...
Olha só isso!
If the sky suddenly turns into a warning sign, do people still have time to hesitate? Just in the short opening months of 2026, 10 events hit one after another. White streaks covering the whole sky, poisonous clouds coloring the cities, strange shapes gliding through the clouds, light bending into symbols, wind slamming down like a hammer, ice and snow swallowing up towns, record snow burying the far north, clouds flowing like rivers, thick solar halos, and a massive wall of clouds rolling in like a doomsday wave. None of it happens slowly. It comes fast, piling up, layer on layer, tightening that feeling of chaos and a future fading with every breath. Are we just seeing coincidences? Or is a sequence being carefully arranged? Do you really believe this is all random, when everything is speeding up at once like time has lost its patience? So now, come with me deeper to face the pieces of truth. And before we start, please leave a prayer in the comments below, just a way to hold on to faith while the sky still refuses to stay quiet. Right now, we're going to jump straight in with 1. Chemtrails, those harmful streaks covering the sky. What's really being drawn across the sky when those white streaks don't fade away anymore, but hang there like a giant net? Just look up for a few minutes, and you can feel this sense of chaos drifting down from above. Long, straight lines crossing each other, covering the whole sky like someone's quietly writing a cold, silent message. In that moment, we're no longer just watching from the outside. We're pulled into something much bigger, where the air starts feeling heavy and our usual peace begins to crack. Chemtrails, the name people use for those long-lasting white trails behind planes, are being seen a lot in Pennsylvania, especially around cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Day after day, the sky gets filled with lines that don't disappear quickly like normal contrails. Instead, they spread out, grow wider, and join together into thin sheets of cloud. Pictures and videos going around show this isn't just happening in one spot anymore. The same thing is being reported in Florida and many other places around the world. What really catches people's attention isn't just how often they appear, but how they change over time. They start out bright white, then turn a dull gray, spreading over a huge area and leaving a stuffy, heavy feeling that lasts for hours. Some folks who live there say they have trouble breathing, get allergies, or feel unusually tired after days when the sky is covered like this, though no official medical study has confirmed a direct link yet. Looking at it neutrally, these are observations worth taking seriously, because how widespread and how often they show up goes way beyond what used to be considered normal. Online, the debate is really heated. One side believes chemtrails are connected to geoengineering programs, pointing out that weather and atmosphere modification has been openly discussed in many scientific papers. The other side pushes back hard, often mentioning a study from the University of California, Irvine, that says there's no evidence commercial planes are spraying chemicals and that the white lines are just contrails forming under certain weather conditions. With these two completely opposite views, which way do you lean when you see them showing up so often, more than ever before? When you look up at a sky blurred by these man-made clouds, a lot of people think of Matthew 24:29. Right after those days of suffering, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Luke 21:25 paints a similar uneasy picture. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be worried and confused because of the roaring of the sea and the waves. These Bible verses don't prove what's happening, but they give us something serious to think about when the sky no longer looks the way it used to. No matter which explanation you go with, chemtrails have become a dividing sign, something that forces us to face the question of how far we should go when messing with nature. And if this is only the first curtain drawn across the sky, then whatever's coming next as the atmosphere keeps changing, it's probably a lot more frightening than we realize. 2. Chemical incident in Cape Town. Sky turns a strange color. A thick column of smoke shot straight up into the air, turning the Cape Town sky a weird orange, making people working around the industrial area panic and run. The uneasy feeling spread fast as the familiar sky color changed in just a few minutes, almost like a different curtain had been pulled over the peaceful port city. It happened in Montague Gardens, a major industrial area north of Cape Town, packed with chemical plants and storage warehouses. This spot has seen similar accidents before, especially nitric acid leaks that make orange smoke. The worrying thing is Montague Gardens sits right next to neighborhoods and major roads, so any incident hits everyday life directly. According to major news reports, a huge chemical cloud drifted with the wind, covering Montague Drive and Link Road. Authorities had to block off the area and evacuate nearby buildings. The strong chemical smell made 4 people feel sick, and 1 had to go to the hospital for monitoring. Environmental experts warn that toxic gas levels in the air might go above safe parts per million limits, creating long-term breathing risks. If this keeps happening, the city government and disaster risk management kept sending out messages to calm people, saying this industrial accident is now under control. Still, even they admit they're concerned about future air quality as Cape Town grows more industrial. Major news reports say similar events are no longer rare around the world, and if this trend continues, city environments will pay a heavy price. Looking at those pictures, do you really believe this is just a one-time accident? Revelation 16:2 says, "The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly, painful sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image." The image of a toxic cloud covering neighborhoods feels like a serious indictment of greed and the misuse of creation, where poison is no longer just a metaphor but a visible reality. Luke 21:11 also warns, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and plagues in many places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven." When the sky changes color and the air itself becomes a threat, that warning rings out like an accusation. Humanity is pushing itself to the fragile edge between progress and destruction. Cape Town may just be one bright flash in a growing chain of incidents, but if the sky keeps changing color in other places too, what's waiting ahead for a whole continent that's already fragile in the face of unseen changes? 3. Glowing angel floating across the sky. Late in the afternoon, against the sky, an unusual glowing shape appeared. It looked like a winged being, just hovering there and moving very slowly. The golden light it gave off wasn't harsh or blinding. It was soft and deep, strong enough to make the whole scene feel like it suddenly stopped. It left people who saw it with a strange, hard-to-describe shock. The first reports came in quickly from different places, big cities in Texas, urban areas in Eastern Europe, and more. The shared videos showed this special cloud formation right at that time of day, when the sun is low and the light gets all soft and hazy. In that kind of light, the cloud didn't just look like a person with arms spread wide like wings. It also reflected that golden glow, making it hard to tell where nature ends and something holy begins. If you look closely, you can't really make out any facial features. You just see a tall, gentle shape that seems woven out of light and mist. The way it drifted across the sky was calm, not rushed or wild at all. It felt peacefully quiet, almost like it was on a purposeful journey. Seeing it, you can't help but wonder, is this just some random atmospheric thing or a message arriving at exactly the right moment? Online, people quickly split into different opinions. Some say it's just a common optical illusion. Our brains naturally see familiar shapes in random cloud patterns. Others are more careful and say there's not enough solid proof to decide one way or the other. But quite a few folks point out that these similar sightings are happening more and more often, in different countries and situations, and they feel that's something we shouldn't just brush off. Malachi 3:1 says clearly, "Behold, I will send my messenger, who will prepare the way before me." Then suddenly the Lord you are seeking will come to his temple. When people put those words next to the pictures going around, many see it as a key that helps explain things, like the sky is reminding us of messengers who show up before big turning points. Revelation 14:6 goes even further. "Then I saw another angel flying in midair, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people." Looking at this passage, that glowing figure stops being just an interesting visual effect. It becomes a quiet reminder that messages from heaven can arrive in ways we never expected. No matter which way you choose to understand it, seeing something like this still leaves a silent ripple in your heart. If just one quiet sign gliding across the sky could get the whole world talking this much, what would happen if similar signs stopped coming one at a time and started appearing all across the heavens at the same moment? 4. Sun-cross light. When the sun slowly touches the horizon, everything seems to slow down, and right then, a picture appears that makes a lot of people stand still for a long time. In that moment, have you ever felt like something far beyond the usual beauty of nature is quietly saying something to us? This cross-shaped sunlight has been seen in many coastal areas lately, especially at sunset. The videos show the rays not spreading out in the normal circle, but forming two clear lines, one horizontal, one vertical, crossing right in the middle of the sky as it gets darker. No sound, no big movement, just the light and a deep sense of calm covering the whole scene. Out on wide open beaches, where the horizon stretches forever, that light cross shows up more clearly than ever. The water reflects soft gold and orange colors, and up above, the rays look almost carefully placed, creating a picture that makes many people think of a place of worship. Even though you're standing in the middle of nature, it feels like you're in a rare holy moment. From a science view, this usually happens because of light bending through ice crystals high in the atmosphere when the sun is very low. Special ice patterns can bend the light in unusual ways, making rare shapes like this. That explanation is neutral. It helps us understand the physics without taking away from what our eyes are actually seeing. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." When people put this verse next to the light cross in the sky, many see it as a gentle hint rather than a judgment. The sign isn't loud or scary, but it's enough to make folks stop and think about the connection between heaven and earth. Matthew 24-30 goes even deeper. "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." In the light of this verse, the cross isn't just an optical effect anymore. It becomes a quiet reminder of what's coming, a sign in the sky pointing to his presence. Everyone may understand it in their own way, but no one can deny that moment leaves a deep mark. The light doesn't speak, yet it stirs a meaningful silence inside those who see it. And if that cross in the sky is a soft reminder just before sunset, what will happen when the light finally goes out, leaving the world to face the darkness ahead? 5. Big storm in São Francisco do Sul, Brazil. The wind didn't come in slowly. It slammed down like an invisible punch from way up high, shaking everything in its path. In just a few seconds, metal roofs flew off, trees snapped, the ground turned into a mess of water and debris, and you could really feel how helpless we are when nature suddenly gets out of control. This was a microburst in São Francisco do Sul, Santa Catarina state. It's not a long-lasting storm. It's a sudden rush of cold air dropping straight down from high up. The wind hits the ground hard and then races sideways with terrible force, plus heavy rain, turning coastal neighborhoods into total chaos in just a few short minutes. What was left afterward was an eerie quiet and piles of destruction. News reports say the wind in the center of the microburst could go over 60-70 miles per hour, strong enough to rip roofs off houses and knock down big old trees that had been rooted for decades. More than 200 homes got damaged. Lots of roads were blocked by fallen trees. Thousands of families lost power for a while, and some people got hurt from flying pieces of stuff. The damage numbers kept going up as rescue teams reached the cutoff areas. In the videos people recorded, you see the wind pouring down like an invisible waterfall. The sea turned muddy and rough, and the rain hit people right in the face. There was no real time to get ready or find good shelter. Everyone just had to duck and brace against the huge pressure crushing the town. It felt like the sky and earth flipped upside down, and our usual sense of safety just vanished. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." When you read that next to pictures of wind crashing straight down from the sky, a lot of folks start thinking about how things are changing in ways that don't follow the old patterns anymore. Disasters aren't just coming from the ground or the ocean. Now they're coming right from the sky above us. Luke 21:11 goes on to warn, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven." A microburst can be explained by weather science, but when they start happening so often, so hard, and with no warning, it still feels like one of those strange signs. That suddenness makes many people wonder, is this just extreme weather, or is it a reminder that things are getting out of balance? What happened in São Francisco do Sul isn't alone. It's part of a string of wild changes happening all over the world. When wind from the sky can flatten a whole town in minutes, it makes us take a hard look at how fragile our place really is. And if this was just one strong local hit, what happens if those winds team up into a huge storm covering an entire continent? 6. Japan is buried under a blizzard. On the familiar streets of Sapporo, snow covers everything so deeply that all sounds get swallowed up, leaving just a biting cold and empty feeling hanging over the place. The blizzard in Hokkaido has turned northern Japan into a shut-off world of cold white. Snow falls heavy and steady for hours. Strong winds blow hard from the sea inland, and you can barely see your hand in front of your face. The usually lively city is now locked tight in ice. Main roads disappear under thick snow, leaving everyone feeling completely cut off. Sapporo, a place used to tough winters, is still shocked by how fierce this one is. Snow piles high against front doors, porches cave in from the weight, cars get buried after just one night. The bright ski resorts that are normally full of life have gone quiet, like people stepped back and let nature take full control. Local authorities keep putting out urgent warnings, one after another. Schools are closed, flights get canceled, trains stop running, and folks are told to stay indoors because of the real danger of hypothermia and deadly accidents. All those nonstop warnings create a quiet kind of chaos. Everyone has to face their fear alone in a cut-off world. And you can really feel how fragile we are when an entire city gets sealed behind invisible walls of snow. Joel 2:2 describes it like this: "A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like dawn spreading over the mountains." That picture strangely fits the Hokkaido blizzard. Daylight gets choked by thick clouds and white snow, turning time into one long dark flow where you can't tell day from night. The cold doesn't just cover the ground, it seeps right into people's hearts. Revelation 8:12 continues like a cold warning. "The fourth angel sounded his trumpet. Then a third of the sun, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were struck, so that a third of them turned dark." When the Hokkaido sky stays dull gray for days, light blocked out, a lot of people stop seeing this as just bad weather. They start feeling it's a judgment on a world that's losing its way. The blizzard will pass, but the lonely, freezing feeling it leaves behind won't go away easily. Roads will get cleared, life will pick back up, but the memory of a city cut off from the world in total silence will stay. And when the ice finally melts, what will show underneath, Or are even colder storms already quietly waiting ahead? 7. The desolate scene in Alaska after the brutal blizzard. Snow isn't falling the usual Alaska way anymore. It's coming down heavy, piling up fast, pressing everything to the ground like it won't let people have any room to breathe. Juneau is going through one of the biggest snowfalls in history. They've already gotten over 80 inches in a short time, and forecasts say another 30 inches or so could be on the way. This coastal town that's used to long winters is now under a state of emergency. Everyday life has to adjust with every new weather update that comes out. CNN and Fox News report that the sheer weight of the snow has forced many homes to shut down quickly so they can be reinforced. Rescue teams are being sent out non-stop to try to prevent buildings from collapsing. Down at the harbor, some small boats couldn't handle the pressure and sank, causing millions of dollars in damage. Meanwhile, main roads are blocked by snow piled, chest high for anyone trying to walk. The scene in Juneau feels especially bleak and abandoned. Rows of low houses slowly disappear behind a solid white wall. Trees are bent over double. The once busy harbor now sits silent, like it's frozen in time. There's no screaming or shouting, but the heavy, suffocating feeling is very real. Every extra inch of snow adds more pressure on the infrastructure and on people's spirits. Authorities keep issuing warnings about roofs collapsing, small avalanches, and the chance of long power outages. Schools are closed. Many neighborhoods are being told to stay inside as much as possible. Rescue operations have to work in almost zero visibility. In that kind of atmosphere, you can really feel how fragile we humans are when facing the quiet, massive power of nature. Amos 9-6 starts with a strong declaration of power. He builds his upper chambers in the heavens and has laid his foundation on the earth. He calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. When it seems like the seawater has been turned into snow and ice pouring down on Juneau, a lot of people see it as a reminder that control isn't in human hands. Luke 21:25 keeps ringing out like a clear warning. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Even though here it's snow instead of ocean waves, the feeling of confusion and helplessness is almost scarily the same when nature goes way beyond anything we expected. The snow will stop falling eventually, but what it leaves behind won't just be melting ice. When spring comes, that whole huge amount of snow will turn into water, and Juneau might face another threat, even more serious. The question is this the worst of it? Or just the beginning of bigger waves still waiting ahead? 8. Beautiful Cloud River. In the middle of these dark and uncertain days, sometimes the sky suddenly opens up with a moment that makes your heart feel quiet and still. High up on the mountain top, a long band of white clouds appears, not wild or loud, just gently drifting by like a brushstroke from another world. It doesn't come to scare anyone. It comes to hold your eyes a little longer, almost like it's asking people to pause and catch their breath from all the rush of these times. This kind of thing is often seen in big mountain ranges like the Rockies or the Alps, where heights of thousands of feet let high clouds gather and move along the shape of the land. But what catches people's attention lately is that it's happening more and more often, even in places that rarely saw it before. Weather reports from NOAA and Nature.org say that cirrus, or stratus clouds, when they meet steady winds, can form shapes that look just like a flowing river. From far away, the cloud bank curves along the mountainside, wraps around the peak, then spills gently down into the valley below. The movement is slow and calm, layer after layer flowing like soft water through all the turbulence around it. While the earth keeps taking hit after hit from nature's anger, up above, there's this peaceful sight that soothes the mind, like two different worlds existing side by side. That moment makes you wonder, even in the most troubled times, could there still be little signs placed there on purpose to keep hope from dying out completely? The contrast between the beauty up high and the hard reality down here doesn't feel random. It feels more like a quiet reminder sent through pictures without needing a long explanation. Psalm 104:3 says, "He lays the beams of his upper chambers in the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind." The clouds aren't just weather. They're described as the way the Most High moves, appearing and traveling exactly as he wants. When that band of cloud drifts across the mountaintop, the idea comes back again, like a gentle hint that there's a presence beyond what our eyes can normally see. Isaiah 19:1 goes on to paint the picture. The burden against Egypt. Behold, the Lord rides on a swift cloud and will come into Egypt. The idols of Egypt will totter at his presence. Here, the clouds are tied to action, bringing a message right on time, making every false power tremble. So the coming of this cloud river isn't just something pretty to look at. It's like a quiet pause put right in the middle of stressful days, reminding us that hope is still being planted, even as judgment draws near. But is this calm scene up high just a short break? Or is it a sign that something much bigger is waiting just beyond? 9. Sundogs showing up more often. The sky in 2026 has left a lot of folks stunned because these strange bright spots keep appearing right next to the sun way more often than usual. They're no longer just rare moments you see in photo books or science articles. Sundogs are showing up over and over, enough that both skywatchers and regular people stop and look up. The real amazement isn't just how pretty they are. It's that something once so uncommon now feels almost normal. Folks usually spot sundogs in really cold places like Mongolia or parts of North America, where ice crystals form easily in the air. Wikipedia and NatHab explain that it happens when sunlight bends through those hexagonal ice crystals floating high in the clouds. What stands out now is that they're appearing a lot more in areas that weren't known for them before. Visually, sundogs look like two bright glowing spots, one on each side of the sun, sometimes connected by a faint ring of light. The glow is both dazzling and kind of solemn, giving a feeling that's almost holy, hard to capture with just science words. When they keep happening close together in a short time, plenty of people start wondering, is this just chance? Or is it some kind of bigger sign? What do you feel when you stand under a sky like that? Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and clouds of smoke." A lot of people see those words as a way to make sense of unusual things happening in the sky. With sundogs appearing so often, the idea of wonders in the heavens comes up again as something worth thinking about. Matthew 24:29 goes on, "Immediately after the distress of those days the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky." Current. This Bible passage doesn't talk directly about sundogs, but it puts changes in the sun into a bigger picture of huge shifts beyond the normal order of nature. From a science view, weather experts at weather.gov say climate change is altering the upper atmosphere, creating more ice crystals at high altitudes, which makes optical effects like sundogs happen more frequently. Some discussion boards like Metabunk point out that better cameras and easy sharing in the digital age might just mean we're noticing and recording them more. Those two explanations, physical causes versus how we interpret meaning, sit side by side, showing the difference between science and personal belief. Still, the fact remains, a phenomenon that used to be rare is now common. Whether you look at it through science or faith, sundogs are marking a different kind of time for our sky. And if these little halos around the sun are already getting the whole world's attention, what might happen when even bigger signs start to appear? 10. Cloud tsunami in the sky. The sky suddenly changes when a huge wall of clouds rises up from the horizon, rolling and heavy, like it's pouring straight down toward the ground. The light gets swallowed up, and everything goes dark in just a few minutes, leaving you overwhelmed in every sense. When you see that massive cloud coming closer, you can't help but wonder why the sky looks like such a violent wave. These clouds are called arcus, or shelf clouds. They often show up right before powerful storms. In the past, people noticed them a lot along coastlines like Portugal or Gulf shores, where moist air and strong winds crash together hard. Popular descriptions from Wikipedia and Good Thomas say they're low clouds that stretch for miles, forming a solid wall that covers the whole sky and warns of intense weather right behind it. When it happens, the scene gets downright eerie and hard to breathe through. The cloud wall swirls and churns, with the edge rolling downward like a living wave, moving fast and heavy. The ground below falls into deep shadow while the wind howls. At that moment, it doesn't feel like a weather forecast anymore. It feels like the quiet right before a disaster, when nature shows its overwhelming power and makes us humans feel so small. Genesis 7:11 records, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the windows of heaven were opened." The picture of the windows of heaven being opened sounds like an ancient way of describing the sky falling apart, when the clouds stop being still and start pressing down, flooding in from above. Matthew 24:37-39 goes on to say, "For as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man comes, they knew nothing until the flood came." That Bible passage puts people's surprise and carelessness right in the center. Disaster doesn't come with a loud siren, but with signs in the sky that many just ignore. From a science view, cirrus clouds form when a strong cold front pushes warm, moist air upward, creating that classic rolling shape. But when these events happen more often and get bigger, the uneasy feeling doesn't come only from the physics, it comes from the meaning of the repetition. The sky seems to be showing us a familiar picture. Floods don't just come from the ocean, they can come from the clouds too. It all leads to a cold truth. Nature is reminding us of the days of Noah, using the language of clouds and wind. And when that cloud wall finally breaks, what's left isn't just rain and storm. It's a bigger question about whether humanity is ready for the real flood that's been warned about for so long. Looking back at the whole journey we've just been through, you can see those 10 events aren't random or disconnected at all. They're linked together like a steady stream of signals, coming one after another, strong and consistent, sounding out across the sky of this very unsettled time. From strange signs that are hard to explain to images that leave people stunned, everything gives the feeling that the normal order we're used to is being seriously shaken. The Bible has talked about times like this before. Matthew 24:6-8 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but the end is still to come. All these things are only the beginning of birth pains." As these signs keep coming faster and thicker, that prophecy doesn't feel far away anymore. It rings out like a serious wake-up call for the generation living right now. Joel 2:30-31 also says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood." Those pictures aren't meant to scare us. They're there to wake up a heart that's been sleeping in a false sense of safety. It's a call to come back to being awake, to real faith, and to humility before the one who holds power over heaven and earth. If something's weighing on your heart right now, feel free to leave a prayer or a sincere thought below. Sometimes just taking a quiet moment, turning our eyes upward, is enough to light a little candle in these shadowy days. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any message. Thank you so much for staying with me to the very end. May peace always be with you. May your faith stay strong and warm, and may every day that passes bring you one step closer to true awakening.
Lighten up now.
Oh my God!
If you wake up one morning and the sky in front of you isn't whole anymore, would we still dare to believe tomorrow will be like yesterday? Time is getting squeezed tight. The future is fading, and a quiet fear slips into every breath as strange signs suddenly rise up all at once. No hiding, no asking permission, like a loud bell forcing humankind to look up. 10 events in a row are showing up, tearing apart what we thought we knew. The sky cracking open, lights burning bright, sounds roaring, strange shapes floating, trumpets sounding far away. It's all coming fast, piling on top of each other, not giving us any time to look away or pretend it's nothing. Maybe you're wondering too, why is everything happening all at the same time like this? Maybe we all feel something big is coming really close. If you still have a prayer left in your heart, please leave it down below, like a quiet moment before the big shaking that's starting ahead. Now come with me, let's dig deeper together and take a closer look at the hidden truths inside these 10 strange events that are happening secretly and quietly all around the world. 1. A tear in the sky. The boundary between two worlds is becoming more and more visible. In just a moment, the familiar sky suddenly looked so strange it was hard to recognize, as if someone had ripped a mask right off in front of our eyes. The dizziness spread fast. Your heart skipped a beat, and maybe you felt that same unease the second the video appeared. No narration, no warning, just one odd dark streak hanging there in the middle of the sky. Trino, a small town in the Piemonte region of Italy, where mornings usually start slow and peaceful with a calm sky. But in the video that went around, that whole scene was completely shattered. A straight vertical tear appeared high up, stretching what people guessed was over 2 miles long, so sharp it made many think of some man-made surface being torn open. The usual blue color disappeared, replaced by a deep darkness that didn't reflect any light, not like clouds, not like normal shadows. The video lasts less than 5 minutes, but it was enough to start a big wave of doubt. What confused people wasn't just the shape of the tear, but the way it disappeared. It didn't fade slowly or spread out thin. It closed gradually, like an invisible thread was slowly sewing the sky back to normal. That one detail makes it really hard to call this any ordinary weather event. History has recorded similar things before. Back in 16th century Germany, woodcuts showed strange cracks in the sky, seen as bad omens. Then in 2019, in Australia, some rare light phenomena were called sky rips, though scientists later tried to explain them as noctilucent clouds or plasma interference. Still, when you compare them to the Trino video, many details just don't match. In the Bible, Revelation 6:14 says, "The sky receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place." These words aren't meant to explain the event, but they paint a familiar picture. The sky isn't fixed forever. Likewise, Luke 21:25 talks about signs in the sun, moon, and stars, hinting that the order up above can be disturbed before big changes happen down here. Skeptical opinions came up fast. People said it might be a lens effect, cirrus clouds cut by light, or even something edited. But the fact that the video was recorded from several different angles and it didn't show the usual signs of lens flare or elves makes those explanations feel less convincing. Science can describe a lot of things, but in this case, there are still some gaps that are hard to fill. One thing is for sure, that moment left a strong impression on us. Not because it was explained, but because it still hasn't been fully explained. And when the first crack shows up in the sky, the question isn't just what it is anymore, it's whether this might be the beginning of something much bigger quietly waiting ahead. 2. A strange straight line across the sky, looking like a fold in space. All of a sudden, a perfectly straight white line appeared. It cut right across the whole horizon and just stayed there, like a fixed mark scratched into the sky. No sound, no obvious movement, just a sharp edge that made the familiar view feel instantly strange, making you stop and really look closer. People spotted this same thing at the same time in several big cities across Europe and the United States, places where folks are already used to seeing regular airplane contrails. But this was different in shape and how long it lasted. The white line stretched tens of miles, almost perfectly straight, never spreading out or fading, and it hung there for many hours. Even more striking, some videos clearly show a faint shadow of the line falling onto the ground below, which made lots of people stop and wonder, just how high up is this thing anyway? When you watch it frame by frame in slow motion, you can see the line doesn't have the fuzzy look of normal clouds, and it doesn't scatter like regular vapor. It feels more like a boundary than a trail of gas, as if the sky has been split into two separate layers. No engine noise was heard, no public radar signals matched it, and that left people with the feeling that whatever this is, it doesn't belong to ordinary airplane patterns. In Genesis 1-6-8, the Bible says, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God called the firmament heaven." That ancient description used to be understood as a clear separation high above. When you put that next to the image of this perfectly straight line suddenly appearing in the middle of the sky, many folks can't help thinking about an invisible boundary being revealed. Online, people quickly split into different opinions. Some said it's just a contrail from a military plane flying extra high. Others mentioned satellite trains like Starlink that confused people back in 2020 in California. A few talked about possible high-energy experiments in the atmosphere, even though there's no public proof. Every explanation has some logic to it, but none of them easily explain the shadow on the ground or how incredibly stable and long-lasting the line was. Revelation 6:14 says, "And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places." That picture isn't describing one exact event, but it does suggest the sky isn't something forever fixed. When a straight, silent line shows up, it doesn't prove anything by itself, but it does create an empty space in our usual way of seeing things. One thing seems clear. This was way beyond a normal streak of light. It stayed around long enough to be noticed, sharp enough to start arguments, and strange enough that you can't just shrug it off. And once a boundary line like that appears in the sky, the story doesn't seem to end there quietly, because whatever comes next probably won't stay so still and silent. 3. Giant mysterious chain in the sky reveals a legendary hidden creature. Hanging there in mid-air, huge metal rings suddenly appeared out of thick fog, making deep, heavy sounds like the gears of some ancient machine just coming to life. That moment didn't feel like any normal, natural thing. It was more like the sky was unlocking something that had been kept prisoner for a very long time. The air all around the area started shaking with a real sense of threat. It happened over the Kuril Islands, that chain of volcanic islands sitting between Russia and Japan. Very few people live there, and thick fog is pretty much normal. In just a few days, videos shot from different angles passed tens of millions of views, and a feeling of uneasiness started spreading fast. Before this, people had mistaken strings of satellite lights for something strange, but this time the sight didn't look like lights at all. It was a solid object, with depth, with real weight, and with sound. From the gray mist, a chain-like structure slowly came down. People estimate the diameter is hundreds of feet. It moved real slow, like something was pulling it from above. No airplane showed up, no lifting equipment in sight, just that steady, deep, heavy metal clanking ringing out. The image reminds folks of old Norse legends about the chain that binds Fenrir, holding back enormous power until the very last day. If you're just watching on a screen, can you really believe this was nothing more than a harmless setup in such a remote patch of sky? Revelation 20:1-2 says, "I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding the key to the abyss, and a great chain in his hand. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years." The picture of that great chain doesn't feel so abstract anymore when you see these huge metal rings showing up overhead. Skeptical voices came up quick, saying it's CGI or some large drone. But the size of the thing, how steady it stayed for so long, and how the same thing appears clearly in many separate videos, makes the human tech explanation feel pretty shaky. Those earlier satellite train mix-ups never made mechanical sounds, and they sure didn't have this kind of solid shape. Isaiah 24:18 warned, "The windows of heaven are opened, and the foundations of the earth shake," words that point to the hidden order being broken open. When you put all the pieces together, the feeling isn't just curiosity anymore. It's the heavy weight of a real warning. Those chains didn't simply show up and disappear. They feel like a sign that something bound tight is starting to loosen, that invisible limits are beginning to shift. And if whatever has been held back up there is slowly being revealed, then the next ancient floating structures we hear about might not just leave us with questions. They could bring secrets humanity isn't ready to face. 4. Mysterious triangle shapes hiding in the clouds. Floating in the sky over Giza, upside-down pyramid shapes suddenly appeared, gently spinning in the thick clouds like they didn't care about gravity at all. No loud boom, no flash of lightning, just a quiet but very strange presence that made the crowd below freeze for a few shocked seconds. When you see something like that, do you think it's a rare weather event or some kind of sign that doesn't have a name yet? People recorded the phenomenon for almost 3 hours, right above the Giza Plateau, where the ancient pyramids, about 481 feet tall, have stood for thousands of years. Many witnesses said the shapes appeared, then moved slowly, sometimes speeding up all of a sudden before fading into the clouds. Some compared them to those lenticular clouds that formed pyramid shapes over Nevada back in 2018, but the similarity was only on the outside. The movement this time looked much clearer and more organized. In history, Giza has never been just buildings. It's always been a symbol of the connection between heaven and earth. Exodus 13:21 talks about the pillar of cloud that led the way. The Lord went ahead of them by day in a pillar of cloud to guide them, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so they could travel day and night. Seeing sacred-looking structures coming from above has made many scholars wonder again about the deeper meaning of clouds and shapes in the old writings. Some Christian theologians are approaching this carefully. They say we shouldn't be too quick to call it completely supernatural. They remind us that in the past, many signs in the sky were misunderstood simply because people didn't have enough science knowledge back then. Still, there are also voices warning that completely ignoring things outside our usual explanations might cause us to miss something truly important. When you look at Revelation 21:2, the picture takes on another layer. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. A structure coming down from heaven, with a clear shape, no longer just a figure of speech, but something that might help explain why these familiar forms showed up in exactly the place tied to sacred history. Scientific explanations, like rare clouds or light projections, are still being considered, but the speed of movement and the perfect geometry make those ideas hard to fully accept. Reports about pyramid-shaped objects discussed in military documents don't give a complete answer either. When you put all the pieces together, what remains isn't a final conclusion, it's a door that's just starting to open, leading to the next question about signs in the sky that we still haven't named. 5. The moonlight formed a glowing cross in the mysterious night. Down in the quiet southern hemisphere, the moon suddenly looked different that night, not harsh and bright, but soft and deep, like it was covered with a layer of meaning hard to put into words. Out of the thick, dark clouds, a shape of light slowly appeared, so clear that folks below could only stand there quietly, looking up. In that wide open space, a gentle sense of something holy slipped in, not pushing, just quietly inviting. It happened in the sky over Australia, where the horizon stretches far and the moon often shows up clearer than almost anywhere else. The light stayed about 10 minutes, long enough for lots of people to snap pictures and share them, but short enough to leave more wonder than easy answers. Back in 2022, Ireland had some crossing light beams from the moon bending through clouds. But this time, the way the clouds parted and how balanced it looked made many feel it wasn't just chance. The dark cloud seemed to open up on purpose, letting the moonlight shape into a cross hanging right there in the sky. No wild movement, no distortion, just a clear pattern that left you a little puzzled. Looking at something like that, have you ever wondered why these powerful symbols show up exactly when people feel the most shaken? Matthew 24:30 talks about it. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. When you put the two together, a lot of folks couldn't see that light as just a weather thing anymore. It felt like a soft nudge, turning our eyes upward to think deeper about faith. Among believers, not everyone sees it the same way. Some take it as a comforting sign, a quiet reminder that faith hasn't been forgotten in this shaky world. Others are more careful, saying we shouldn't rush to call every sky event something holy. Faith grows best when we stay clear-headed and humble at the same time. Acts 2:20 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord." The words don't describe a cross exactly, but they open a bigger picture where signs in the sky aren't meaningless anymore. They become gentle hints to look inside ourselves and reflect on our hearts. Scientists talk about pareidolia, seeing patterns like faces or shapes in random things, or just clouds lining up by chance. Still, it's hard to explain how steady and long-lasting that light shape was. In the end, between all the different views, it's not really about who's right or wrong. It's the quiet question each of us asks ourselves: what does it mean to me? And if that moonlight was just a gentle reminder, how much farther will the light column rising in the east take our thoughts? 6. Mysterious pillar of light shooting up in China. That light didn't explode or make any noise. It just flashed on and then stood still in the night sky, quiet enough to make us pause for a very human moment. In the calm stillness of Zixing, seeing that pillar of light felt like standing before something not meant to be explained, but simply remembered. Some images pass through your eyes and then stay in your mind for a very long time. The small city in Hunan province is used to fog and mist rising from Dongjiang Lake, where lights sometimes bend because of the humidity and the hilly land. That night, Miss Zhao was just a visitor, not looking for anything strange, but she became the first person to spot a tall, rectangular pillar of light rising straight up into the sky. It glowed bright like neon, completely separate from everything around it, not connected to any building or tower. From far away at first, the pillar looked sharp and clear, tall and silent, like a column quietly guarding some invisible line. When Miss Zhao walked closer, the light slowly faded, then disappeared completely, leaving the sky empty. When she stepped back to where she started, there it was again, exactly the same, as if it had never gone away. It felt like we were watching something with its own rhythm, not following the usual rules of light. By the time morning came, every trace was gone. No reflection left, no source to track down. Revelation 21:23 says, "The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp." In that light, with no clear source, many people started thinking about a kind of light that doesn't depend on physical things, one that only appears when it wants to be seen. The usual explanations came up fast: glass reflection, car headlights, lens effects. But the fact that it disappeared when you got close made those ideas feel less convincing. Isaiah 60:19 says, "The sun will no longer be your light by day, nor will the moon give you its light by night. The Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory." The words don't prove anything, but they quietly open the door to a light that goes beyond our normal ways of explaining things. What stayed with us wasn't fear. It was a very deep silence, as if that light didn't come to scare us, but to remind us that not everything needs to be touched or reached. When a pillar of light only lets you look from a distance, it makes us think about the space between people and the things that are truly sacred. And if the pillar in Zixing was just a quiet lamp in the dark, then the night gate people talk about in Oklahoma, is it a place where light guides the way or where darkness begins to open? 7. A strange, glowing hole in the night sky, like a doorway coming from another world. Something about the night pulls at your curiosity hard, especially when the familiar sky suddenly shows a shape that doesn't fit the usual things you see up there. On the roof of a warehouse near the police station in Catoosa, a pale blue light quietly appeared. It was just bright enough to make anyone looking feel like they were touching the edge of something no one's ever really named. Catoosa is a small town in Oklahoma where the horizon stays flat and calm, and folks often use the night sky just to watch the stars. That night, there was no storm, no unusual space event anyone had warned about. Still, the light showed up anyway, hanging low, only a few dozen feet off the ground, right at eye level for the first people who stepped outside to check. It was a perfect circle with shimmering edges, while the center rippled gently like still water someone just barely touched. Soft blue and moving slowly. No sound, no wind, no change in air pressure. Just this flawless circle floating still in the air for almost 20 minutes. For that moment, the sky didn't feel like our usual ceiling anymore. It felt like a surface that could actually open. Revelation 4:1 once described it this way. After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." That picture of an open door came rushing back when the glowing ring very gently expanded and contracted, almost like it was breathing. After that, a lot of people couldn't see it as just some light phenomenon anymore. When the light finally disappeared, the air felt strangely heavy, like something had just closed right before it could really happen. 2 Corinthians 12:2 says, "I know a man in Christ who was caught up to the third heaven." Those words don't explain how it works, but they sure make you think about layers of space beyond what our senses can reach. Atmospheric physicists say this might have been a rare kind of elves, or a weak aurora, where charged particles briefly form a round shape. On the other hand, some people who study symbols point out that the rippling pattern has a kind of deliberate symmetry, not like the messy randomness you usually get in nature. So 2 ways of seeing it sit right next to each other. One side is science with measurements. The other is looking for hidden meaning in the picture. At that line between the two, where do you lean? A rare plasma structure, or a door that only opened long enough for people to see it? Whatever the answer, this event still leaves a bigger question mark than the thing itself. And if the light ring in Catoosa only peeked open then closed again, what part will the spinning fire ring over the Alps play when it starts swirling wildly in the European sky? 8. Mysterious fiery ring in the sky. Right after sunrise, the sky over the Alps suddenly got torn open by a huge spinning ring of fire, bright red, fierce, and swirling fast. It felt like the last line between order and total chaos was being pushed back. The glowing ring hung high above the valley, casting a hot shadow down onto the little houses below, turning a peaceful moment into a silent warning. The Swiss Alps are used to strong winds and wild air currents because of the high mountains, but this spinning ring was nothing like any storm folks normally see. Only one single video clip spread around before all the others disappeared, and that strange silence made the story travel even faster. The fiery ring showed up just as the sun was rising and stayed for nearly 2 hours. It stretched across several miles, long enough for people in villages on different mountain slopes to all see it with their own eyes. The fireball spun almost perfectly still. It didn't drift with the wind and didn't spread out thin like forest fire smoke. The bright core stayed intense while the outer edge got darker, forming a perfect circle, like some kind of machine running quietly in the sky. In that moment, the threat didn't come from speed or noise. It came from the cold, steady way the ring just stayed there. Ezekiel 1-4 once described something like this. "I looked, and I saw a storm wind coming from the north. a great cloud with flashing fire and brightness all around it. And in the middle of the fire, something looked like gleaming metal. That image of swirling fire and light made a lot of people think of a message, not one meant to explain things, but to warn us. As the ring kept turning, thin smoke drifted out, but never spread far, like it was held inside some invisible boundary. Revelation 4-5 says, "From the throne came flashes of lightning, rumblings, and peals of thunder. Before the throne were 7 lamps blazing, the 7 spirits of God, fire, light." And that repeating circular motion, it matches a pattern we've seen before, one tied to power and judgment. Scientists quickly offered explanations, maybe a fire whirl from mountain winds or some rare plasma, but there were no reports of any wildfires nearby. And natural fire whirls usually move around wildly, not stand still for hours. The way this thing stayed so steady, plus how fast the videos vanished, made many people feel this wasn't just some weather event. When the fire finally faded and the sky turned back to its cold blue, what lingered was a serious reminder. Some signs don't come to destroy us right away. They come to make us realize our limits. That ring stayed long enough for people to see it, then quietly left, like a warning that had been delivered. And if the Alps were just the place where the fire first spoke, then the flashing orbs over Abu Dhabi might be the next chapter, where the sky no longer reflects the familiar sun we all know. 9. Strange flashing balls of light. Sunrise in Abu Dhabi came in a very unusual silence. The desert sky didn't hurry to show its usual light. Instead, there was an empty feeling that's hard to name, as if the whole horizon was holding its breath. No explosion, no warning sign, just a long waiting that made time feel slow. Then the bright spots appeared, not just one, but many. Orange and white rings flashed on and off in a steady rhythm, spreading all along the horizon for almost 2 hours. The light didn't spread out the way a normal sunrise does. It pulsed and flickered, leaving people confused as they tried to find the real sun among all those fake flashes. From far away, the balls of light seemed to stand still, but their flashing was so perfectly in sync it felt almost eerie. Bright orange like glowing coals, white bursts that suddenly disappeared, giving the sense that something invisible was controlling it all. Only when everything slowly faded did the familiar sun finally appear, leaving behind confusion no one had time to explain. In that moment, did you feel the uneasiness when the sky no longer follows the rules we're used to? That question spread fast, along with the videos, starting heated arguments from all over. Some said it was just a rare desert mirage. Others suspected a drone show, and quite a few wondered if it was some large-scale atmospheric electrical event. The technical explanations came out carefully. A mirage usually stretches images rather than making even flashes. Drone teams would have a hard time covering the whole horizon without leaving any trace or official notice. The silence from the authorities only pushed the story in many directions, from doubt to much deeper guesses. Matthew 24-29 says, "Right after those days of trouble, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." These words get brought up every time the normal order of light gets turned upside down, not as a scientific answer, but as a way to frame the shared feeling of unease. Joel 2:30 also describes, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." Fire and light appear, then fade, leaving questions about what it means more than what caused it. In this view, the event doesn't have to destroy anything. It just needs to show up at the right time to wake people's attention. When the Abu Dhabi sky went back to normal, what stayed hanging in the air wasn't the light that had gone out, but the next question. If those glowing rings could hide the sunrise, then what will happen when sounds from above start coming down, finishing the unfinished chain of signs? 10. The trumpet sound echoes across the sky. It's no longer just rumors or scattered pieces. Now is the time to face head-on what's coming from above. When you hear those sounds, do you really believe they're just random? Or does something deep inside you start to tremble in a different way? There's no more quiet moment to just watch. This is where every eye has to stop and pay attention. From Italy to Spain, then across the ocean to the United States, at the same moment, the same deep, metallic tone comes down from the sky. It doesn't sound like thunder. It isn't an engine either. It's more like a long, drawn-out brass horn that hits you right in the chest. Just a few short minutes, but long enough to make the streets freeze. People look up in quiet confusion. The videos show the sound doesn't come from one fixed direction. It spreads out, like it's covering the whole space overhead, now low, now higher, carrying a feeling that's ancient and almost ceremonial. No lights in the sky, no shaking of the ground, just the echo, as if it's calling the name of something long expected. Revelation 8-6 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them." Those words don't describe sudden chaos. They describe the moment of getting ready, when the sound becomes the starting signal. In that setting, the trumpet doesn't have to destroy anything. It just needs to blow to show the old order is about to close. Many scientific explanations try to call this skyquakes or rare atmospheric vibrations. But those ideas usually rest on single events, not ones happening across continents at the same time. When the exact same sound shows up thousands of miles apart, coincidence starts to feel very hard to believe. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 is very clear. "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first." Here the trumpet is no longer a vague symbol. It's tied straight to the decisive moment, when no one can stand outside what's happening. When you put this worldwide sound next to the 9 signs that already came before it, the picture feels more complete than ever. No more loose pieces. It's a chain that's reached the very last note. The silence after the trumpet isn't the end. It's the pause right before judgment. If all 10 signs have now appeared one by one, and that sound from above has rung out like this, the question is no longer up in the sky. Are you ready to face what's coming, or are you still choosing to close your eyes now that the trumpet has just fallen silent? 10 events have passed, like 10 steady knocks on the door of our awareness, from fire, water, and sky shaking to sounds echoing from above. Each one alone was strong enough to shake us. But when you put them side by side, they form a clear, thoughtful pattern. Not random chaos, but repeating signals that keep getting louder and clearer. It starts with the first cracks in nature, then moves to things we've never seen before. The whole flow takes you from surprise to deep wondering. At first you might think, oh, these are just rare things that happen sometimes. But when they keep coming at the same kind of time, with similar size and the same strong feelings they stir up, all the simple explanations start to feel pretty weak. And at the very end, the silence after that trumpet sound seems to say more than any words ever could. Joel 2:12-13 says, "Even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning. Rend your heart and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God." These words don't talk about sudden destruction. They open a door to turn back while there's still time. Through this whole journey, what really matters isn't fear, it's waking up inside. What we see in the sky or on the earth is only the surface. The real heart of it is how people respond to the message. When our hearts get quiet, solid faith becomes the anchor that keeps us from getting swept away by panic or just going numb. Psalm 91:1-2 says, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." In the middle of all these changes, this promise reminds us that real peace doesn't come from figuring out every sign. It comes from putting our heart in the right place. If something stirred inside you after these 10 signs, leave a quiet thought or a little prayer from your heart in the comments. That sharing isn't just words. It's a marker of an honest moment with yourself. And please share this with others and follow the channel so you won't miss the next messages coming soon. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end. I'm praying that you and your family will be kept safe and at peace through whatever changes may come. When all the signs come together into one complete picture, are you ready in your heart for what's waiting ahead? Amen. The sky seems to be trying to tell us something when these strange signs keep showing up one after another, coming so fast that humanity doesn't even have time to look away anymore. Lights tear through black clouds, giant shapes shoot silently across the sky, and darkness moves in places where there should only be stars. Everything is happening too quick, too real, as if time itself is being shortened with every breath. From metal objects going straight through mountains, shadowy figures lingering in the night, people-like forms flying against the wind, to sky dragons appearing in the middle of storms, beams of light shooting straight up into the clouds, fake heavenly bodies, groups of orbs coming down, clouds forming strange shapes, and winged lights descending. These 10 phenomena aren't standing alone. They're linking together into one heavy chain, echoing warnings that were written down a very long time ago. The Bible talked about signs in the sky before the last days, and now the question isn't whether they exist or not. The real question is, what are we going to do when the sky finally starts to speak? We're seeing it, but are we ready to listen? Or are we still going to turn our faces away while time refuses to stand still? If there's still a little faith left in your heart, feel free to leave a prayer down below, just as a quiet way of saying your soul is still awake. And the rest of the story, maybe it's waiting to unfold just ahead. Let's get started right now. 1. Mysterious metal arrowheads tear through the Alai sky. What happens when the sky stops being a quiet place and turns into a battlefield for movements beyond human understanding? That moment didn't come from movies or imagination. It showed up suddenly in a remote mountain wilderness where we always thought only wind and snow ruled. The news spread so fast it made people's breathing quicken, because one thing felt very clear: this wasn't something you could just ignore. It happened in the Alai range of Kyrgyzstan, a rugged mountain area that rises close to 18,000 feet above sea level, where hardly anyone ever sets foot. There, 3 sharp-pointed metal objects suddenly ripped across the sky, streaking over the peaks at a speed that froze every natural reflex. In that split second, the people recording the video only had time to notice the blinding reflections sweeping through the air, cold, silent, and downright eerie. The lead object had a clear arrowhead shape, roughly 100 feet long. The other 2 followed right behind in perfect formation, spaced about 50 feet apart like they were programmed that way. Their shiny metal surfaces mirrored the sunlight like glass, leaving no smoke trail, no sound, no sign of any normal engine. They were estimated to be going 500 miles an hour as they cut through the clouds, making regular ideas about aerodynamics feel meaningless. The sight forced us to admit there are things operating way outside what humans can explain. Locals who know the area immediately thought of Shaitan Mazar, a spot about 50 miles away that's had past reports of strange metal pieces collected there. This chain of events makes the whole picture feel much heavier, not just one lone flash in the sky anymore. The Bible once spoke of signs like this in Revelation 12:3. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. That image echoes like a quiet suggestion, not forced, but enough to plant a seed of unease. Some skeptics say it might be a military test, but that idea falls apart fast. No radar signals, no noise, no flight path that matches any known drone or aircraft. Videos coming from several different independent angles make the "it's just an illusion" explanation hard to hold up. when you put this next to Matthew 24-30. Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of